Hello everyone, I'm Ken Thomas and this is my partner Ben Gandy.
Hey Ken.
We're with Envisor Consulting and we're really excited that you're joining us today for this webinar. We're in the middle of a series that features our Green Dot operating system, and today we're going to be focusing on one important component, and that's the creation or development of your company's vision. So let's get started. You know, one of the things that's probably good to do is go back and define what is the Green Dot operating system.
It's a good start.
Yeah. So over the past many years, Ben and I have been involved in the landscape industry, and we've had the opportunity to own and operate successful companies. As consultants, we've been able to look inside and under the hood of some of the finest landscape organizations in the world. And through that time, we've been able to identify a set of best practices that seems to be common ground for successful companies, and especially for these market-leading companies. And we've really codified what we believe is the formula for success in building successful organizations, and we call that system the Green Dot operating system. So Ben, we developed this graphic which really communicates the building components for the Green Dot operating system. Mm-hmm. And when we think about businesses, if we took the roof off of the business, we feel like we would see these basic building components in just about any business, but at varying levels of maturity.
Right.
But if you take the roof off of a successful company, a market-leading company, what you're going to see is full maturity in the different phases of different components within that organization.
Right.
This particular graphic, going from left to right across the top, starts with mission and values. You know, it really focuses in on how to build a qualified and effective culture. Moving across to the right is vision. You know, where are we going and how are we going to get there? You know, vision is something we're going to talk about today. Strategy, how do we take that vision, build a roadmap, and turn it into reality? Mm-hmm. Structure, what's the right org chart? Who do we need on board? Right person, right seat. How can we basically structure this thing to be able to achieve our strategy? And finally, budget on the far right. What do we need to do to finance this operation, to finance our dreams? What is the right financial forecasting model to be able to do that?
That's exactly right, Ken. So we start off with those sort of executive level pieces of organizational development, right? Mm-hmm. And then we got to talk about business process.
That's right.
How we do what we do. And you and I have organized those processes along the workflow of the sales stream in business.
Right.
That starts for all the jobs in the business. It starts with the lead. Got to start somewhere and start with the lead and understanding what we do and what we don't do. And then it moves to scope or design, scope development or design. From there, we have to estimate the project, and we have pretty emphatic views on proper estimating. There's a lot of ways to do it wrong. Mm-hmm. There's one way to do it right. It moves from there to a sold phase, then a work in progress phase, and then a job close phase. And if you define in each one of those phases what administration does, what sales does, and what production does, then you can scale the business and just keep stacking that workflow up to any size that you want, right? But if you fail to really define the deliverables and accountabilities for each phase, then growth just means chaos. Right. So it's just mission critical in terms of organizational development to define the system for how we do our business processes clearly and distinctly in this industry, right?
That's right. And to your point, you know, this is where the complexity comes in. Mm-hmm. You know, when you're a small business owner, you wear multiple hats and you control the whole process. And as a company grows and you bring in more sales, at some point you got to start handing off and delegating pieces of this business process. And if you don't have a system for doing that, if you don't have clarity between the roles and have standard operations within each phase, it gets to be a real mess.
Yes.
So it's really important to define that and then to assign those accountabilities. On the bottom row, we really have some support positions. Obviously, the front end of that sales process or business process is about sales and customer relationship. And so we need to understand what is our philosophy behind business development. How do we keep that engine running every day? And what does a business development department look like? Mm-hmm. Once we get those customers, we're constantly selling verticals to those clients. We're upselling solutions to their problems, and we have a client relationship management function that needs to be extremely well developed, because it's, again, in that position that we deliver our highest level of customer service.
That's it. And the other inputs that you need in there, you need capabilities in terms of planning and logistics.
Right.
You need to understand lean principles to leverage your productivity. You need field leadership.
Right.
And finally, you've got to have a set of key performance indicators, KPIs, and metrics to keep everybody accountable and to keep you on track.
That's right. So Ben, why do you think it's important to have, an operating system, a documented operating system like Green Dot?
I really feel like, Ken, that having developed this system has provided us with an anchor point that has allowed us to sort of prioritize and sequence the basic building blocks of organizational development. And we've developed content around each one of those blocks so that we can teach, train, monitor, improve business functions around those and drive organizational development. 98% of the landscape companies in the United States never get beyond $2 million, and we feel like this is not really understanding these components is one of those obstacles. And we work with a lot of companies, most companies we work with are larger than that, but they still get stuck. And so what is it? How do you get people unstuck? It's organizational development, and having codified these ideas in this way really helps us to leverage what we know to drive organizations forward and grow them and mature them.
Absolutely. And again, it gives us a vocabulary and, to your point, an anchor to work from. And we've worked with companies all over the country and implemented pieces and parts and holistically the Green Dot operating system. And these companies can speak the same language now about the different components and how far along they are in development.
That's right.
So it makes a big difference. So as we zero in on vision, we're really zeroing in on a very, very important aspect of organizational development. Stephen Covey in 7 Habits says, always begin with the end in mind. If you don't know where you're going, it's impossible to build a plan to get there. Right? Ben and I are big believers in vision, both in our personal lives and in business. Creating a personal vision, a family vision, an organizational vision. And vision can really be defined as your picture of success, your future picture of success. And it's something that you create in your mind first, and then you can begin to march in that direction. We also believe that writing down vision is a powerful component of actually ever achieving vision.
That's right.
We believe in vision so much that we actually named our company, Envisor Consulting, around the idea of vision. At Envisor, our mission is to help people to envision or to see their ultimate success, and we help them to actually get there, envision and achieve their greatest success. And that's a lot of fun. It's very fulfilling.
Yeah, absolutely. We've worked with organizations where we sat down and developed vision statements early in our consulting career and have enjoyed seeing those actually come to fruition over time more often than not.
That's right. I'll tell you, one of the books that I've always enjoyed reading is anything from Jim Collins, and Good to Great, Built to Last. And in the book Built to Last, Collins surveys visionary companies and comes up with some very common success factors that visionary companies employ. He believes that every vision has 2 main components. The first is really the ideology, and we've talked about that in one of our earlier webinars. The mission and the values of an organization, the value system that the organization stands on, is a big part of the ultimate vision. The second piece is the fully envisioned future picture of success, and he uses a term which is kind of strange called a BHAG. Which is a big, hairy, audacious goal.
Right.
And it's a forward-looking kind of aspirational goal that should be compelling and at the same time hard to achieve but attainable, if that makes any sense. So vision in Jim Collins' mind is really 2 pieces: ideology and a big, hairy, audacious goal, the BHAG.
Right.
But you have to clearly define what that bullseye is, what that target is in the future, and then begin to pursue it.
That's it. And we've come to realize in our careers that vision has to be defined with specificity. It's got to be clear. I want to be the biggest company in my market, or I want to be the best company in my market is aspirational, but it's not specific.
Right.
It's vague ultimately. So it's got to be time bound. It's got to be specific. In fact, as we work with organizations, when we talk about size, what size are we talking about specifically? What is the revenue size that we are shooting for? I was with an organization just last week. When we started working with them, they were about $3.5 million. This year, they'll cross the $7 million mark. Their next target is $12 million that they intend to achieve by 2024. So it's very specific. There's a year that they're going to get there to a specific number, right?
Right.
And it's within certain market segments. It's not everything and anything. There's a couple of market segments where in their market it would be easy to bring on a lot of revenue, and that's multifamily and HOA, but they want to limit the percent of their portfolio that are in those specific market segments for strategic reasons. So, it's bound by time. It's there's size specific, market segment specific, revenue mix. The profitability has specific goals. We even believe you ought to define your vision in terms of the structure that you want to have, the role that the owner wants to play. Does he want to be active in the business? Or would he rather play sort of a board of director role? What is the culture that we aspire to at the organization, and that, define it specifically? And what kind of quality of life do we want to lead? Right. If you don't define those things, then you'll work hard and you may or may not get there, right? But if you define them, then you give yourself at least an opportunity to develop a strategy for achieving them.
That's right. And if you've thought it out completely, you may be determining what your geographic footprint is going to look like over time. Are you going to be multi-branched or single branched? And there's just so many, to your point, multi levels to a clear and concise vision that needs to be thought out. Once you've thought it out there's not that many variations as you begin to march down that path.
That's right. Ken, we've been just honored and blessed to work with really the leading landscape provider on Boston's North Shore, and that's Indy Landscape.
Yes.
And Nick DiBenedetto, the leader of that organization, is just a great visionary.
He is.
He has really understood the power of vision in his organization, and we are just delighted that he's able to join us today. Nick, welcome. Good to have you.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Good to see you. What's happening on the North Shore today?
Well, it's 90 today after it seems like 20 days straight of rain. So we're pretty excited to have the weather turn for us. It's actually feels like summer right now. So just keeping everything moving in the right direction.
Good, excellent. Good. So, Nick, when we started working together, your company the majority of it was design build. A lot has changed, and a lot's changed based on kind of the vision that you developed. You want to tell us a little bit about kind of that process and how you came to be where you are?
I think one of the comments you made is probably a little inaccurate. It wasn't me developing it. I really feel that both you and Ken had a lot to do with guiding me through some of the vision that we've been able to find and then communicate to our staff, and then continue to execute. We were like most landscape companies that started out in the residential market, got really big in the residential market. At one point, we had almost 390 residential accounts. I think by the time you guys got engaged with us, we had realized that a lot of that wasn't sustainable. And then, through the process and with some great guidance, we came to find out that we needed to adjust our strategy on what markets that we should be in, what we should maybe get out of, but what we should mainly grow and refine. So I think one of the questions that was asked by you, Ken, to me was, if you have 390 90 residential accounts. How long would it take you to drive to each of them, get out of your car, walk completely around the house, get back in your car and go to the next one? And I think we did some quick numbers, and it was like 6 weeks to do that. And that immediately allowed me to understand that it wasn't very sustainable. So that was a big game changer for us and me as a leader to look at the market differently under your guidance.
So you recreated or recrafted the Bullseye for the future back then. What's the Bullseye, and what was that process to come to terms with that?
Well, I remember being a little bit protective of my residential book of business, all my friends and family's friends, and everybody who's in residential kind of has their customers near and dear. So one of the things that helped me a lot was to talk about, and in the words of both of you, let's look at the residential maintenance as maybe a golden goose. Let's let it keep laying those golden eggs, and let's take those golden eggs and try to get into different areas of the marketplace. So the thought process there was to try to take a look at that and say, okay, and instead of growing it from a top line revenue, maybe looking at maybe $1 million book of business, focus on high volume, high end clientele. Focus on clientele that are willing to pay you up front for the season, so we could leverage that financial boon. So we went from having a tremendous amount of accounts to doing about $1 million, but of that million, about 55% prepay us, so we get a windfall of about $500,000 in the spring, and then look at other markets too, namely commercial maintenance and commercial snow and ice, and try to grow that. And
you've been very successful over the years replacing that revenue of a lot of that residential with new targeted market share in the commercial maintenance arena. It's not a quick path, but slow and steady wins the race, and you had the courage to act on your vision, even when it didn't seem comfortable.
Yeah, and you guys did a fine job doing a combination of coaching and challenging. I'll never forget the time when I said something about, I could take over that market, and one of you said, "No, you're not ready." No one likes to be told that. But it did. It was exciting. I think we had less than $1 million worth of revenue when we started with you in the commercial, what we call the commercial maintenance contracts. So under contract, I think at the time we had about 800,000. We're sitting now with about just shy of $4 million worth of commercial maintenance revenue under contract. Some of them 5-year contracts. We're pushing our condominium vertical into longer contracts. And then we've grown our snow and ice considerably too. We only do commercial snow and ice. We got out of the residential completely, except for those few that we have to take care of. But so we've gone from probably, being a $1 million commercial maintenance company to all in with enhancements and everything to about a $6 million commercial maintenance company, and still growing, still learning a lot. It's a different market. And you guys were very influential on teaching me the verticals. I had never thought about the market the way that you guys showed me, where you have your healthcare vertical, you have your condominium vertical, you have your Class A office vertical. And that was very interesting to learn and continue to learn how those verticals behave, because they all are slightly different. And to be successful in them, you have to kind of know what those verticals are thinking and feeling and what they need.
Yeah. Have you had any, have you second guessed the direction since you've got some momentum and some traction moving forward? Do you feel like if you recast your vision today, would it be much different from where you are or where you want to go?
I would say the only discouraging thing that happens to me, Ken, is I'm a slow learner, but I do have endurance. So, I'm sticking with it. I wish we did it earlier. I don't second guess it. I mean, some of the things that happened to us a little bit, I would say, because of the pandemic, we were kind of shunning condominiums a little bit because they are the hardest. I feel they're the hardest commercial vertical. But one thing we found about the condominiums in the pandemic is they have a budget. And for the most part, those people are, at least in our market, they're still paying their dues. They can afford to pay their dues. And they're a little bit insulated from the outside economy. I was right in the middle of our largest contract negotiation. We were going to sign it in March for a 6-year extension. I thought it was going to collapse and there was going to be a renegotiation, and it didn't miss a beat, and they were right on the money. So we kind of looked at the condo market a little bit differently and say, hey, let's not turn our back on this market so quick. We're pretty good at it because we've had to be. So we're looking at them a little closer and not being as maybe snobby as we were at first when we were trying to grow the commercials. So I would answer that question with, I wish I started earlier. There hasn't been many second guessing, maybe just some slight tweaks, if anything. But you taught me that the value of the company when I get into the change that we would see with the vision would increase. And I completely agree with that 100%. There are a lot of people inquiring constantly on a weekly basis. And a lot of the discussions start with how it is structured. And I think the way it's structured now in comparison to the way it was and the way it's going to be structured in the future with the plan is going to, create a much more valuable company too.
Excellent.
That's great. Nick, you and your team did a fine job with, building a strategy around that vision and pursuing it, but it started with the vision of exactly what do we want to go do. And it's been a lot of work, but I really feel like it's paid a lot of dividends for you. And it's exciting to see as an outsider, exciting to see the company and its organizational development just continue to mature and to go.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. No, you guys have been phenomenal and influential. And I think part of what you have taught me is to continuously just kind of recast the vision. I mentioned it this morning. We have a stand-up sales meeting that's a 15-minute meeting. And when I looked around the room, I realized there was a brand new person there that may have not heard the vision. So, I just went through all of the different profit centers and what direction we want to go in. So it's been a lot of fun, and I appreciate the guidance and the friendship that we've had, and hopefully I can continue to make you proud.
You will. You will.
Well, that's key word there is we've built a great friendship, and we've enjoyed working with you and maybe playing with you a little bit as well. So we've had some good times. So
we have.
We got to pick up on the play again.
We do.
Right.
We do.
We got away from that a little bit. So
I know all this work gets in the way.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Nick.
Thanks for joining us. It's
much.
a pleasure to see you. Thanks for your words and your insight. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
It's just so good. Nick has done so much over the years, and it was evident in his time with us. I remember sitting down with Nick years ago and talking about how do we actually develop the vision? How do we take the time to actually get away and set an environment where we can be creative?
Right.
And we knew, based on our experience in the industry, that we wanted to steer Nick in a certain direction, and he was certainly willing to be open-minded, which is a big part of crafting a new vision for your company.
Yes, absolutely.
One of the things that we like to do if we're going to actually have a vision casting meeting is to get off site. It's a great opportunity to get away, spend a couple of days with your team, especially your top leadership team, bond a little bit with them and get to know them and work hard and play hard. But at the end of the day, it's a creative trip the first time. It's not necessarily trying to get to the end result that first meeting. We're trying to get everything on the table. What are the opportunities out there? And it might be worth, again, starting with a SWOT analysis in the industry, your strengths and weaknesses and the opportunities and threats, to try to figure out, well, here's where we are today, but we could be here. Well, why do we want to go there? Right. And it also comes back to playing into your mission and your values. If we go here, but we have to give up our values, it's not worth it.
That's right.
So defining clearly what we're trying to do and where we want to go. It's a brain dump. It's creative. We do a lot of flip charting and dreaming. It's a great place to be safe and be able to debate. Why would we give this up and go here? How hard is it going to be? Do we have the team to make it? It's a great process. And then you're going to filter and scrub your ideas. If you take 2 days possibly for a vision casting meeting, it's good to narrow it down so that you leave with some ideas, some real action plans that can be vetted out further.
That's right. And Ken, a lot of times we will recommend that people have somebody facilitate that meeting for them in their organization.
Yep.
Sometimes with work groups, there are history or personal dynamics that may inhibit somebody from speaking up. Right. There may be dynamics that inhibits people from hearing each other. Right. At times. So having a facilitator, I think sometimes a third party can easily pick up on that and help bring the conversation forward. You may have somebody in the organization that takes discussions into rabbit holes sometimes that are not necessarily germane to the point, and having somebody that can professionally, respectfully, politely sort of keep that discussion on track. Ultimately, want to walk away from that meeting with clarity on down the road at a specific date.
Yes.
Right? What is our revenue targets, our market, our geography, our structure, our quality of life, our profitability, all those.
Yes.
If we can articulate those, write them down, we can build a strategy to get there.
That's it. If you can see it, you can achieve it. So documenting that final plan or that final destination, that bullseye, is huge. And then we can begin to figure out how to get there.
How to get there. That's right. Hey, thanks for joining us today. What are we going to talk about next time?
Ben, it's probably time to talk about structure. So we've been talking, about strategy.
About strategy. Yeah, we're going to talk about
We've been talking about mission and values and now vision. Well, what's the strategy to actually bring all that together and do something with it?
That's right.
So
that's right. Thank you all for joining us. We will be hosting a similar webinar on strategy. Look forward to having you join us on that. In the meantime, follow us on LinkedIn or Facebook or find us on the web. Don't forget about Envisor Academy as well. And thanks again.
Thanks so much.